I'm going to be honest, y'all. This is not a video that I wanted to record today. Seeing the news about the Karl Anthony Towns injury was definitely kind of deflating for me personally for a bunch of different reasons. The first thing that I'll speak on is I've said it on the Heliocentric podcast plenty of times. I said it on the Numbers on the Board podcast plenty of times. I don't know why, but it just feels like our stars are being hurt more and more consistently right now. And somebody can pull up information and data and things like that, and I may be completely wrong. But as a person who's watched basketball my entire life, just recently turned 29, so I've been watching basketball for 20 plus years now. For whatever reason, it just feels way more consistent to our stars being down. Like I still have a list of names that I mentioned on one of my later podcast episodes on Heliocentric. We're missing Ja Morant. He's out for the year with a shoulder injury. We got Joel Embiid with the meniscus situation, obviously. Bradley Beal has had hamstring, nose. He's been out a lot this year. Zach LaVine is out for the year with the ankle injury. Trae Young just had left hand surgery. Darius Garland had a jaw situation at the earlier in the season. Evan Mobley had a knee situation. I think he has an ankle situation now. So the Cavs have been feeling an injury bug. My Knicks, you got OG Anunoby out, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Brunson just recently got hurt. LaMelo Ball. Obviously, the Hornets aren't like the most exciting team or a team that we had as like a playoff contender or anything, but LaMelo Ball is one of our bright young stars in the league. He's been out with the ankle injury. His brother hasn't played in years, who was a nice young talent that we all enjoy watching. Tyler Hero, hyperextended knee. Like, we're just dealing with so many injuries to big name stars, to intermediate star, all-star level players, to the young stars. It's just piling up. And I don't know, it's just very tough because you go into the season as a fan, like I said, watching basketball my entire life. I don't expect for us to have 100% healthy, years. But I just name guys that are like very important to the league. The Memphis Grizzlies at full strength, they're another playoff team, so somebody's falling out. That's another team that you add into the mix. You know what I mean? Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, Steven Adams coming into the year. Everybody on that team has missed time. Everybody on that team has missed time, and I really enjoyed the early part of the season when Desmond Bane was being able to put up numbers and show the growth in his game, and we don't even have that. He had an injury, and I'm like, yeah, we're probably not going to see him for the rest of the year. Ja came back off the suspension. He gave us some excitement, showed that what they can be at full strength, and he's out. Like, we're missing legitimate pieces. Joel Embiid and the Sixers. When Embiid was healthy, the Sixers blew past and exceeded expectations and looked like a team that could be dangerous in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, you still favor the Celtics. Obviously, you think maybe the Bucks will start to figure it out at some point. My Knicks and the Cavs are going to be tough opponents if the Philadelphia 76ers run into them. But you give the Philadelphia 76ers a legitimate chance having Joel Embiid, having Tyrese Maxey, having Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton you like as a complimentary piece next to them. They go out and they get Buddy Hield. You kind of like Philadelphia, and you don't rule them out in any series. Now when he's out, you really can't take them serious. It affects the entire landscape of the season is affected by all of these injuries. And now you wake up to Karl Anthony Towns being hurt, and you have to look at the Timberwolves in a certain way now. Very similar to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the only thing I will say with the Timberwolves is I kind of like their starting lineup a little bit more completely than the Philadelphia 76ers. But any chance, any hope, any thought of them being a real contender, it evaporates with Karl Anthony Towns being out. With Karl Anthony Towns, you respected them and you were like, "Oh, this is interesting. I can't wait to see how it plays out." But I don't know anybody that really looked at the Minnesota Timberwolves as a favorite anyway coming out of the Western Conference. You still look at the Nuggets as the team to beat, with Nikola Jokic being the best player in the world, Jamal Murray being the greatest number two that you can have, the greatest non-all-star number two that you can have. You look at the role players they have around that duo of Michael Porter Jr., KCP, Aaron Gordon, high level. These are some of the best role players you can get in the NBA. Mike Malone being a coach that he's been, You still look at them as the favorites. You look at the punch that the Clippers can give you with Kawhi, Harden, and Paul George. Even their depth with Norman Powell coming off the bench and different things like that. OKC and that young, hungry team. You still got to consider Golden State as they're kind of getting things back together in the second half of the season. Obviously, that 52-point loss. It's tough for the Warriors, but you still look at the Warriors. You know what I mean? We have teams out west, so I don't want to sit up here and pretend like, oh my gosh, Minnesota, the team that we had going to the finals that was probably going to win it all. No, but you still had to respect them and give them the love and credit because they do have the number one defense. They do have two offensive talents in that lineup that can offset some of the struggles because Karl-Anthony Towns, he's damn near giving you 50, 40, 90 as a big 22 points, 8 rebounds a game. He can pop off and give you 30. Yeah, he gave us 50 in an All-Star game. We know what Anthony Edwards can do on the offensive side of the basketball too. So you have those two guys on any given night with that defense behind them. They had a legitimate chance. The next step for them, I guess, is trying to figure out how to stay afloat. That's just the honest thing. Kind of like it's very similar to the Joel Embiid situation. You're just really trying to figure out a way to stay afloat, not fall too much in the conference because everything is so tight up there with the 1 through 4. Them and OKC are tied for the number 1 seed now. There's a lot of basketball left. I know the Clippers didn't have the hot start that we thought they would have coming out of All-Star break with how dominant they were before All-Star break. But this now gives a team like that a chance to get right back on track and to string off 3 or 4 or win 5 out of their next 7. And before you know it, if you lose 5 of your next 7, Minnesota, or you go 4-3 or 3-4, you could find yourself at the 4th seed very quickly. So they have to find a way to stay afloat. The one thing I will say, the 2 games that they've played without Karl-Anthony Towns, very small sample size, they're 2-0. They've put Kyle Anderson in that lineup to replace him, and obviously you have one of the best 6-man options, especially in the front court with Naz Reid coming off that bench. Now, the thing that I will say that I don't like for Minnesota is they don't have any offense that can offset this injury, right? They already have questionable offense because they don't really have any real legitimate threats outside of Ant and Cat, like I recently said. I've always felt that there's been an extra step offensively McDaniels can take. And I know last week he had his career high against the Clippers and had a really outstanding game. Maybe that's something he can build on and take into this next foreseeable future without Cat. Who knows? But Rudy isn't going to be a legitimate offensive threat. Asking him to take on more offensive responsibility is just not fair to him. That's not his game. Especially with what he's doing on the defensive side of the basketball. Mike Conley, again, is a strong, steady point guard who does well defensively and can make shots and run your offense. But again, asking him to be a legitimate threat, unfair to him. And then your bench, it ain't like you have a Jordan Clarkson off that bench. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a really good defensive team with 2 offensive stars or all-stars, and you just get it in like that. But now you take one away, and you add in Kyle Anderson, who's really been a negative on the offensive side of the basketball. His bright spots is what he brings them defensively, more length, switchability, very smart and intelligent player. But when you talk about the spacing and shooting and different things like that, when he's on the floor, that drops for Minnesota. The same thing with Naz Reid. Naz Reid is a much better shooter than Kyle Anderson, but as overall efficiency of a player, the offense, it drops when he's on the floor versus Karl-Anthony Towns. Defensively, though, Naz Reid gives you everything that you need, but obviously you're going to have to play him minutes, backing up Rudy, and then hopefully they can close out some games. That Karl-Anthony Towns offense of 50% from the field, 40% from 3, 80-something% from the free throw line, you're just not going to replace on your bench. As good as Nickeil Alexander-Walker is, he's not replacing that. Kyle Anderson isn't replacing that. Naz Reid isn't replacing that, even though he's a 40% three-point shooter. And even as a collective, I don't think they're replacing that. I think you go into these games, and you're really going to have to ask Anthony Edwards to go into that mode. That's how I'm looking at it. We're going to defend our asses off, and Ant-Man, you got to go into that mode. You got to go into MVP mode the last 20 games of the season for us. We got 20 games left. you got to go into MVP mode where you're just spazzing out. Nobody can stop you. We look back and we say, hey man, over the last 20 games, Anthony Edwards was averaging 33 points per game, yada yada yada, and Minnesota was able to survive without Karl Anthony Towns. The meniscus situations, I don't be knowing how this goes. They're trying to get as many opinions as they can. So I guess there's optimism that he can have a procedure and then rest and chill and be able to be back. I guess I know this meniscus stuff can get tricky because it depends on how the surgery goes. But I guess that's the optimism, is that Karl Anthony Towns has a procedure and it gives him a timetable that will have him out, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And you get him right at the end of the season before the playoffs start. But again, is this a situation like Embiid where you want to throw him into the fire? If he comes back and it's only 2 games left, he misses the next 18 games, he comes back with 2 games left. Is that enough time where you, Minnesota, feel confident enough to throw him back on the court? You know what I mean? Or what if he comes back and he's not the same because obviously he didn't have enough time and now he's struggling and he's hurting the team? Like, it's just so many different questions and processes to go about this. The one thing that I will say that's different with Karl Anthony Towns and versus Joel Embiid is he doesn't have this history of like knee issues. Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns has missed time. A year ago was the calf, but he hasn't had too many crazy injuries and things like that. For the most part, if I'm not mistaken, Karl Anthony Towns is an Iron Man for a lot of his career. Him being injured is not something that we're used to seeing, and Karl Anthony Towns missing extensive time is just not. Yeah, first 3 years of his career, Canes didn't play 82 games a year. First year, second year, third year. At fourth year, 77 games. Then we look at the 2019-2020 season, 35 games. One of these seasons are short because of the COVID thing. I want to make sure I'm saying the right year. Yeah, he missed a bunch of games in 2020, 2019, 2020, but then he comes back the very next year and he plays damn near every single game for the most part. So he started off real good. He's had some injuries here and there. Again, it's just tough because, man. Yeah, the last few years, I will say, Cat has missed time. He has 2 in-between seasons, but then you got 77. He had those 2 down years, and you go back to 74. Then you go 29 games because of the calf. But then this year, he's only missed 2 games. So he's trying to get on the court and get back to playing. But you have something like this. That's the Timberwolves' perspective of it and how this hurts and affects them. Is they're going to lose a big offensive piece. This team is already ranked, 17th, 15th or something like that. Offensively, they're middle of the pack offense. They are, 24, I think 26th in fourth quarter scoring, which obviously you understand how big of a problem that is. Yeah, Minnesota is 24th in fourth quarter scoring at 27.3 points per game. As a team that's heavily relying on defense, fourth quarter scoring is going to be big. That's where you're closing out the game. That's where the other team is making their adjustments, right? Where there's no more adjustments to be made. However you've been playing them, they're probably figuring it out. And you have to be able to match them and come out and win that game to either, still be able to find ways to get stops or score the basketball. So them being 24th in fourth quarter scoring isn't the most exciting thing or, positive thing to hear. And that's with Karl Anthony Towns. Who knows what the fourth quarter scoring drops to? You know what I mean? They're 17th offensively as a team with Karl Anthony Towns. Who knows what it looks like now that you don't have him? You know what I mean? Like, if you're 17th with him, this could be 23 without him. If you're 24th in fourth quarter scoring with Karl Anthony Towns, you may go to 28th in the league fourth quarter scoring without him. It's just a tough situation for them to be in because there's just nobody that's going to be able to replicate the things that he's giving you, man. And I know Karl Anthony Towns gets a lot of shit on social media because of the voice change, and he really did, and that shit is funny, and we get it. But when you talk about being productive as a basketball player, this dude is giving you 22 points per game, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and he's giving you 42% on three-pointer shooting on 5 attempts while giving you 50% shooting from the field overall and 87% at the free throw line, 5 attempts a game. Defense is never going to be all NBA status or all defensive or anything like that, but he's definitely had steps in the right direction, which has allowed him to figure out the two big man lineup and allowed him to have the success. And you just feel you feel bad, man. You feel bad. They're arguably on pace to have the second greatest season in franchise history, and they get news like this 62 games into the season with 20 games left. And yeah, it's another team that I guess falls out of the race. Because as a fan, the way I look at it as a fan is this. Even if a team isn't the favorite to win a championship, you want everybody to be damn near at their best. We accept the fact that injuries are a part of the game. We're not going to have an NBA 2K season where we can just remove injuries. We're accepting of that. But Minnesota being in it can throw a curveball into whatever, and that's what you want as a sports fan in general. They may not win a championship, but shit, they can make it as tough as possible for whatever team they match up with. You know what I mean? Like, they may not win a championship, but what if they did knock out a team in the second round and make it to the Western Conference Finals? You know what I mean? Like the Mavericks did a few years ago when they knocked out Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody thought the Mavericks were going to win the championship, but the fact that they were able to take out Phoenix was exciting. You know, you get what I'm saying? Like, it ain't always about just the excitement of, oh, they're going to the championship. Nah, we want the road to be as tough as it can be. You know what I mean? We want to see the best teams play the best teams and wear each other out and give us the best series, and not have like, oh, they were a team that was going to be a tough matchup, but now we don't have to think about them anymore. Like, no, if the Nuggets are going to do it again, we want the Nuggets to play the best group of game or teams that they're going to have to face in the first 3 rounds before they get to the finals. It's the same thing with the Celtics. I don't want to see the Celtics now not have to face the Philadelphia 76ers potentially. I don't want to see the Celtics have to face a Knicks team that's not going to be healthy potentially. I don't want to see the Celtics match up with a Cleveland Cavalier team that ain't going to have Evan Mobley. Now Donovan Mitchell has been missing some games. You know, like Darius Garland has been banging. I don't want to see that. And I don't want to see either of these teams go against a Celtics team and then they get an injury, knock on wood. I wouldn't want to see that. I want to see the best teams play against the best teams, and I want to see the best basketball in the course of the playoffs to get to the finals. That's the name of the game for every single sport. You know what I mean? You want to see a gauntlet of teams going at each other, and the best team is the last one standing. So this is just another one of those injuries that affects that full capacity of potentially having, you know, a dogfight in these playoffs. Now we see that with the Philadelphia 76ers, and now the Timberwolves are a team that joins that list. And Karl Anthony Towns is unfortunately another name that we add to this list, man. Yeah. Tyler Hero, LaMelo Ball, Trae Young, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Shaedon Sharpe, Patrick Williams, Zach LaVine, Brad Beal, Joel Embiid, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle. Like, it's insane how many names that I'm just listing off. And those are just the names that I have written down. There's probably some names that I'm not even thinking about or that I forgot. Like, where's Chris Middleton? You know what I mean? Like, it's just very frustrating. It's very disappointing. I'm wishing well for the Minnesota Timberwolves, their fans, the organization. I'm hoping that there's some way on God green earth, Karl Anthony Towns can come back. You know what I mean? Like, if a miracle is out there and he can have a successful surgery real quick and miss 15 games and play the last 5 of the season, get in shape, do rehab, and you know what I mean, they can have him out there, that would be beautiful. But knowing what I know, dealing with the knee surgery, and, you know, anytime all of these words are being combined together, it's just never something positive that can come in the short term. So get well, Karl Anthony Towns. All my NBA fans, we just got to keep pushing through, man. We just have to keep pushing through. And Timberwolves fans, I hope y'all are able to stay afloat. I hope it don't get too bad. I hope this isn't a situation where y'all are now on a losing streak or fall too deep. There's no way y'all can fall out of the playoffs. That's for damn certain. But I would love to still see y'all have at least home court advantage. In the next few games, they got the Pacers. That's gonna be interesting. You have the Cavs, the Lakers, Clippers, Jazz, Nuggets, Cavs, Warriors. It's not the toughest matchups on here, but again, there's games where I can see them losing. So The Pacers, they're at Indiana. Oh man, this is the toughest thing about this is what I just realized. Their next one, two, three, four, five. Their next 6 games is on the road. The next 6 games on the road, and they're about to have a back-to-back. They play Indiana tonight, then tomorrow they play Cleveland, and they get a day off on Saturday. Then they turn right back around and play the Lakers. 3 games in 4 nights after this news. West Coast trip. Midwest, and then you go out west to the Lakers. Then you go to the Clippers on Tuesday, so you get Monday off, and then you have a big gap. After Tuesday, they have Wednesday off, Thursday off, Friday off, and then they play Saturday against the Jazz. They get Sunday off and play Monday. So after this tough stretch of 3 games and 4 nights, you'll start to get a little bit of rest, and then you'll be able to play the Jazz. A Jazz team who is sneaky good. Sneaky good. A team you can still beat, but they're going to be sneaky good, especially when you don't have Karl-Anthony Towns. That's the thing about the NBA right now is, again, yeah, a lot of the guys I name are stars, but I also name some other guys because on any given night you can be beat. The Jazz aren't a top team, but because they have Larry Markkinen, because they have Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton and some of these guys, they can beat you. Yeah, the Raptors ain't really having a year, that's to talk about, but when you have Scotty Barnes and you have Emmanuel Quickly and you have RJ Barrett, they can sneak and beat you. You know what I mean? Like, these teams are competing out here with these young stars. They'll beat you on any given night. But when you take those guys away, you lose that any given night type thing. So the next, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So out of the last 20 games, you got 6, 7, 8, 9. So you got 10 on the road and 10 at home. There are some games that I think they are going to be able to win. I think they can win these Jazz games. I think that they'll be able to get a game maybe against the Lakers on Sunday. I think they can sneak and get that Laker game depending on what's going on with Bron. I think they'll be able to get the Pistons on March 27th. Should be able to get the Bulls late March. Should be able to get the Raptors April. You should be able to get the Wizards on in April, but then you play the Nuggets twice still. You play the Lakers twice. You play the Suns twice. You play the Nuggets twice. You play the Cavs twice. They could be below 500 in the last 20 games this season. They can see themselves 6-14. They could go 8-12. You know what I mean? Like, they could go, and then that's where it kind of gets ugly. So we'll see. Luckily for them, they're 43-19. They're top of the Western Conference as of now. Everything that I'm saying is just projection. It's just a prediction. It's not necessarily fact. They could easily, crush my expectations and go 14-6, 13-7, 12-8. You know what I mean? 15-5. The Cavaliers did it. When the Cavaliers went on their streak, 18-1, without 2 of their starters, they crushed the expectation of what I had because I thought that was going to be a scary time for them. So, well wishes to Minnesota and the fan base. Another tough injury that you hate to see, but I guess it's part of the game, man. As always, I appreciate you guys. I am Pee Wee the Plug. I will see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.